History sometimes touches the frontiers of fantasy. A heroic tale carries legend and happening in seeming contradiction. India has elements of both, continuity and change, times of upheaval, periods of peace, disaster and achievement. Go back 5,000 years, and maybe earlier, to Mohenjo-daro and Harappa. Here in the Indus Valley, and later over the entire Indo-Gangetic plain, a civilization in pursuit of a stately life. Then tumult. From the northwest, the Aryans came in an exodus of high significance. The struggle for ascendancy. Out of that conflict crystallized a culture which is still a live inheritance. A new civilization, God created in man's own image. Rama, hero of the Ramayana, was the ideal man uniting several contradictions. Transcending them, his wife Sita, the ideal woman. It was a time when intellect, reflecting on life, came up with focuses of concentration, such as the Universal Mother. It was a fertile era. fratricidal strife came the Mahabharata, the epic whose central figure was Krishna, God-man and liturgist of righteous action. As the first flush of Hindu creative energy ebbed, the inevitable reformist movements came about. One was Mahavir's Jainism, preaching non-violence and non-injury. The other was Siddhartha Gautama's Buddhism. Not at any time are enmities appeased here through enmity, but they are appeased through non-enmity. This is the eternal law, the Buddha said. The declaration and doctrine were to have reverberations far beyond the Indian subcontinent. Roughly 2 centuries later, Buddhism won its most ardent advocate, a man seeking refuge after victory in battle, the Kalinga War. Devanampriya, as Emperor Ashoka was known, desires towards all beings abstention from hurting, restraint in behavior, and treatment equal with self and softness. Under Ashoka's aegis, Buddhism became a world faith. In the flux of change, stretching over a millennia, knowledge leaped known boundaries. In every field, sparks of genius capped solid achievement. India became pilgrim country, strange esoteric land for the seeker, the sightseer, and the curious. Among the earliest were Fa Hian and Hyun Sang from China. Indian history has a concentric character. Order leading to protest. Nonconformity provoking reappraisal. Shankaracharya of the 8th century AD is a fine example of that continuous quest, giving new interpretations to old truths. Each such period, moreover, exploded into soaring affirmations of faith. One of the most attractive quests is the Krishna theme. Jayadeva's Gita Govinda stressed the bhakti aspect. The great corpus of medieval paintings, both the romantic and mystical.
Jayadeva Kavi Prabandham.
The resurgence of fervor threw up figures like Jnaneshwar and Tukaram, Kabir, Nanak and Chaitanya, who combined religion, nationalism and messianism in varying degrees. Around this time, Islam, with its militant affirmations, was already in India. Conflict was inevitable, but the dynamic of history led it to its own particular kind of resolution. A degree of secular stability led naturally to a release of the creative impulse. Throughout the Mughal period, a liberal imagination and lavish resources sought expression through a variety of art forms. As in Indian history before, a predatory period was already setting in. From the west came traders petitioning the Mughals for concessions. Concessions led to establishment of factories at various key points in India. Factories led to protection, protection to defense, defense to armies. Fort William in Calcutta became the focal point. From Clive to Cornwallis, the process of takeover. Pockets of resistance materialized. One such was from Tipu Sultan of Mysore. The company's governors-general came in monotonous succession. The success grew till it had to fail. One of the company's own proconsuls, Lord Canning, anticipated the impending catastrophe. The logic of history was about to prove its point. India had to make a flaming gesture to memory, pride, and hope. (1857). The Sepoy Mutiny. India in revolt. It was a lost battle, but with many a learnt lesson. In 1858, Imperial Britain took over immemorial India. Formalizing it 2 decades later, Victoria of England became Empress of India. In a sense, it was a benevolent time. But never before was the contrast between affluence and poverty so glaring. Meanwhile, a galaxy of great men from different parts of India worked for the creation of an atmosphere of new awareness. Their work was in the true spirit of Indian resilience, which through history guaranteed both a continuity and a renewal. In 1885, an Englishman built an organization, meant it as a safety valve of growing discontent, and called it the Indian National Congress. It soon grew to be different. Fresh smell in the air, freedom in the mind. Revolutionary terrorism was bound to surface. Imperial Britain put it to test.
Claimed against you of murder. Would you like to make any statement?
I object to the use of the word murder because I am a patriot working for the emancipation of my motherland. In this act, I have consulted none but my own conscience. May every drop of my blood sow the seeds of freedom in every home of India. May I be reborn of the same mother, so that I can re-die for the same cause till my motherland stands free for the good of humanity. Vande Mataram.
As that cry echoed across the land, a great unifying figure emerged onto the scene. Hungry millions, he said, ask but for one pearl, invigorating food. The year was 1917, the place Champaran in Bihar, where, between the indigo and the planter, the peasant was trapped in a merciless squeeze. Gandhi challenged with satyagraha. The reprisal was a quit order. I could not obey the order, Gandhi told the court that tried him, without doing violence to my sense of duty towards those for whom I have come. The struggle for freedom gained a new dimension. Jallianwala Bagh. A British general opened fire on an unarmed crowd, packed in a closed bar with but one narrow exit. After such an act, there could be no reprieve. Embracing the complex situation with a deeply held personal belief, Gandhi started non-violent, non-cooperating. An emerging Indianness searched for a new symbol of assertion and found it in the spinning wheel. The imperial power jailed Gandhi and his associates. The Indian people took the pledge of complete independence on the 26th of January 1930. The disobedience of the iniquitous salt laws was yet another demonstration of the urge for nationhood. In prison and out, Gandhi was in full command. Events were overtaking everybody. Fascism in Europe threatened to put out lights everywhere. Fascism is new to you, said Jawaharlal Nehru. But we in India have been experiencing it for the last 150 years. Was 1939. Halt to reaction. I appeal to the conscience of humanity, cried an anguished Rabindranath Tagore. It was a voice in a wasteland. But he said, I shall not commit the grievous crime of losing faith in man. I shall keep that faith to the last. In India, the war burnt into consciousness one supreme fact: freedom more necessary than ever before. It resulted in the Quit India movement of August 1942. In a stirring, if controversial move, Subhash Chandra Bose escaped British surveillance to raise abroad the Indian National Army. It was a dark time. War everywhere, freedom in jail, and famine in Bengal. Unbelievable but man-made, claiming 3.5 million lives. War ended in victory for Britain, but ironically, its last stronghold in India fell. The ratings of the Royal Indian Navy revolted.
Range 102. Hot. 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 Servo!
Pragmatic always, the British drew the right conclusion. Indian independence was conceded in 1947.
Some years ago, made the trip with destiny, and now the time comes when we shall redeem our faith, not only or in full measure, but very substantially. At the stroke of the midnight hour, when the world sleeps, India will awake tonight.
An independence not without agony. The country had to be partitioned, and partition led to immense suffering. The history of India since 1947, its evolution into a republic, and its constitutional framework is of high significance. India's problems have had an end. The gap between promise and achievement and want has had a thorough probe. Looking back, it is a wonder that India had not gone the way of Nineveh or Babylon. The astonishing capacity for survival is perhaps the premise of hope for now and the future.